Is it possible to create your life intentionally, like an artist creates a masterpiece? My today's guest is offering really a beautiful tool for you. Let me welcome Nicol Pham. Hi, Nicol. And yeah, please introduce yourself and tell us about what's your tool, and then we can come through like how did you get to this? What are the results for people if they will use your tool? So please start with like who you are and what you are doing.
Yeah, wow. Thank you. Thank you for having me on here, Slavomira. So I'm Nicole Pham, and I am a journal designer, and I use journals. I've actually been an avid journaler for over 10 years. I think I started in 2008, where I had 8 entries in my journal that year. But since then, I have been diligent in showing up and in using journaling as a tool to access, all of the things that were inside of me. I was a stay-at-home mom at the time, and so having these journals was a beautiful opportunity for me to create space for me to express how I was feeling and to be able to be a witness to some of my experiences, to really ask myself, what do I want to create? And it started to just became a beautiful process. And I was able to just dive in deeper and deeper into accessing this internal wisdom that I didn't know I had at the time. So that's what I just love to do. And I'm now in a space where I want to share this with as many people as possible and to allow them to be able to access this internal wisdom as well as to create a vision for their life so that they could have a direction. Because I find, as a stay at home mom, talking to my daughters, they had a hard time figuring out what they wanted to do. As they were growing up and entering college, they have both graduated now, but that was always a big question for them. Like, what is it that I really want to do with my life? What is the vision? So that's my
Yeah,
goal.
thank you very much for that. And I'm really glad that you mentioned the vision because, from my experience, this is also what people are struggling with. Like, what do I want from life? Like, most of them knows like what they don't want to do, but what do I want? Can you please share more about the process? Like, how does that work? Why is that so important, or why does that help, like journaling by creating the vision?
Yeah, it is absolutely, I think, one of the biggest issues that people have in being able to like come up with a vision for their life, because I think we are so influenced by the outer environment. Obviously, we're influenced by our parents, we are influenced by society, by our friends, and sometimes it's hard to drop into an internal space where we can be listening to ourselves and to really hear, what it is that we deeply desire. I think that's one of the biggest questions that people have a hard time answering. And journaling allows you to hold that space where you can ask yourself, what it is that I deeply desire, what it is that I long for with my life. And it will hold a very non judgmental space for you to be able to sort of answer that question when the moment arises where you have some clarity. And it could be that you don't necessarily have the clarity in the moment when you ask the question, but if you have your journal with you and you leave it, next to you, or like I used to leave my journals on my bedside table. And so the question would always be in the back of my mind. And so it's very interesting how sometimes answers would drop in while I am doing the dishes or while I'm driving. Like the moments when you're not really thinking are the moments when something can drop into your consciousness that you have not really thought about before. And it's the exact answer to your question. So that would be an opportune time to grab your journal, and jot down the answers, even if it may sound a little weird and it's like out of the scope of what you're used to thinking. But those are the best answers because they come from a place that you're not necessarily being influenced by, you know. So that's how I love to use my journals.
Yeah, and also it's important like to share that with, because with you, when you are sharing something with a person and you can be afraid of the judgment or something, what if, and is this okay or something. But if you are just sharing that with your journal, so there's no judgment, you can write down anything without fear of the judgment. So it's also like great tool in this. Is there something like something that can help people? If I noticed from my experience, when I tried, like after, it was maybe I was married for 18 or 20 years, and when children grew up and I had like more time, my role as a mother was not so important, with bigger children. And I tried like, okay, so now I can just take some time, like, and do things I want to do. And I really like, I didn't know. I completely forgot. And it was so difficult to find out like what I really want. Like, I don't know. Is there something that can help like people in this situation? Like, I don't know. I have no clue. I didn't think about it for so long that I really don't know. Like some kind of, other questions, what to ask or what to do if you are stuck and you just don't know.
Yeah, I think this is a problem for a lot of women, especially stay-at-home moms like I was. We found ourselves, taking care of others and not really holding space for us. And so, yes, we do lose some sense of who we are. And, you mentioned your children growing up. That was the same case for me. They went to college. Now they've graduated, and I found that I had more time for me, and I was in the exact same position, not really understanding, like what it is that I want to do moving forward. And so, this is something that could really be helpful, is to just have a journal to be able to record, some of the answers. And I would love to share some of the questions that I used when I first started. This was in 2013. I remember creating a very specific journal for myself, and I called it my Clarity Journal. And in this Clarity Journal, I decided that I would look at all aspects of my life. So I dedicated some pages to my health. I dedicated some pages to my relationships. And then, of course, my work and the calling that I wanted to explore, especially with the kids being gone and I had time on my hands, what it was that I wanted to do. I dedicated space for traveling and fun, and adventure. So you can think about all of the different categories that you would like to explore in your life and dedicate some space in your journal. And some of the questions could be, what is it that I deeply long for in this area? Or what is it that I deeply yearn and deeply desire? So some of these questions, the idea is that it takes you deep inside of yourself and not necessarily allow you to stay in your head. Because when you come from your head, Sometimes you will answer those questions based on, the influences around you. So you want to be able to drop in. And this actually, I want to also mention that there should be a process, some sort of an embodiment process that you want to be able to incorporate into your journaling. So it's a few moments where you can get still, you can get a little bit grounded into your body. And, there's a lot of information out there now, on meditations, on visualizations, on breath work. I mean, there's a lot of tools that allow you to just get settled and get grounded into your body. And this is then a great time for you to, really think about, okay, if I were to ask myself what it is that I deeply yearn for, now you're in a space that's more centered, more deeply attuned to allow you to listen from the inside. And so to just hold that space, for as long as you can and record information that comes up. And what I love to do is I would come back to the same questions over and over. And maybe I'll ask it in a different way, you know, um, because sometimes just different words would like hit you in different capacities. I don't really know how to explain that other than it opens up different spaces. So that's what you want. So you can go into spaces like what would be really fun? What would be really joyful for me to do? Um, what would allow me to grow? And what new skills do I want to learn? There's just a lot of different questions that would open up a space for you to drop in and just sense into like larger possibilities for your life. So,
Yeah, and I love various questions like journal prompts, and sometimes I was surprised, like it was basically the same question, but really the different words just opened something else in me. So, do you have some favorite like journal prompts?
yes, I do. In fact, in my design work, I design guided journals that have prompts in them, and then they have design elements so that you can add an aspect of, some color, some images, some patterns, some beauty. But of course, the guided questions, the guided prompts are the main aspect of the journal. And there's different topics, that you can choose to be able to drop into a certain space. So for instance, I have one that I designed recently. It's called Living an Inspired Life. And this is a journal that have you really think about, the growth that you want this coming year and look at what you've discovered or what you have been able to create maybe in the last year, some of the things that you are proud of that you have created, some of the things that have put you in flow. So you want to have some awareness around, what have I created in the past that has just brought me a lot of joy and has put me in a place of flow. And then you can take that momentum and gear yourself towards this coming new year. And you can start this anytime. It doesn't have to be started at the beginning of the year, obviously. Now you can say, okay, from that momentum, where do I want to go next? What would be projects or things that I want to create, things that I want to experience? What are some things that I want to be able to contribute? What are some things that I really want to have in my life? So now you create a bigger space for you to dream into the new year or into the future. And from here, you can start to think about, okay, the minute I think about these expanded opportunities, what might be stopping me? I think this is one of the biggest areas that you want to hold space for. Where do I feel really vulnerable? when I think about stepping into these larger spaces. So you want to be able to capture, all of the fears that may come up, all of the things that, would stop you, like all of the resistance. And these are wonderful to explore in your journal. What is it that I really feel about these areas, and why are they stopping me? So I would dedicate a huge space to really explore what are the aspects that may be hindering me or that may feel challenging to move forward. But beyond that, you can now start to, hold space for some compassion and empathy for, okay, yeah, it feels a little bit challenging to be able to step into this space. And how do I want to hold space to be really kind to myself, for when those challenges come up? And usually, when you're able to hold space for those challenges from a very compassionate and loving part of you, you're really allowing yourself to just hug, the part of you that feels a little bit scared in moving forward and doing something different. So I find that to be very cathartic as well. And if you're able to do that, you can now start to think, okay, I can step into a space where maybe I can be more empowered. Now that I can hold this part of myself, how do I want to be able to move forward in a very easy, supportive way? And you can start to think of, what are some ideas here that I can take? So now you're stepping into a new space and you're allowing yourself to take very small, easy steps. Maybe you'll start to make a list. This particular project is coming to mind that really feels inspiring. And, what are some steps that I could take to sort of move that project along? So allow
Yeah.
yourself some time to really think about that.
Yeah, this is a beautiful process, and you uh, told it in a very concise way, but we could talk about it even more, because I really like you mentioned, that we need also to think about, like, journal about obstacles. Because if I have a vision, but I'm not there yet, so probably there is something that was holding me back so far, and it would be naive to think like, oh, now I go for that, and that these obstacles like just disappear like by miracle. So it's really wise to also to check, like, okay, why I'm not there yet? There are some obstacles, what I can do differently, or just how I can just take another approach to that or something. So it's important also to look at this, but then not like just spend too much time by like, okay, it's so hard, and there are these not just spend all the time by just dealing with obstacles, because you need to go. So this is a beautiful process, and it's just, of course, it takes time, but with if you just stay focused on journaling, and just bringing that up everything and creating a next steps, so I believe that it works. And
Yeah.
also another thing you mentioned, like these colors and graphics. So can we spend more time by exploring this? Like, why is this important? Like to have even graphics and colors and things like this?
Yeah, I would love to touch upon this because when I first started, my journals were on, composition books that you would buy for like $1, which is great. They are wonderful when you first start out. Something easy that you are not afraid to write in. But as I went along in my journaling process, I wanted to be able to add some beauty into my journals. And that's when I started to play around with, some of my scrapbooking supplies. I used to scrapbook when my kids were young, and I would create scrapbooks for them of, all of their young memories and the things that they used to do. So I had a lot of supplies on hand. The thing that I found amazing with creating space for you to play with adding color and patterns and images is that it's an opportunity for you to connect to your body. So it's not just about adding beauty, but it is about dropping in. It's an embodiment process, and it allows you to slow down. We have a million thoughts running to our minds sometimes, and we want to be able to slow down. We want to be able to drop into our bodies. We want to create a different space, where we can access that deeper intuition. And so I love to grab out some colored pencils. Sometimes I will start to doodle some borders, and that allows me to step into this calmer space within. Sometimes I will cut out, my scrapbooking paper. I find beautiful images and colors already created there. So the process of maybe cutting out some images, adding them in, and some of these images could be so inspiring for you too. If you love, if you think about some of the themes like flora and fauna, if you love, say, a celestial theme of like the sun and the moon and the stars, that takes you into, the cosmos, and you start to expand even further. If you're into animals, you can find some beautiful graphics of animals that feel like they are very, they could be spirit animals. They could, really support you in finding the answers that you need. So, I would say think about themes that really inspire you, and find images and colors and patterns that would add beauty into your journals, as well as create space for supporting you to step into this intuitive process so that you can get the answers that you need. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Because I also work with beauty and colors and symbols in our space. So I know that these kind of things helps us to connect with our like subconscious, and open the creativity and just connect us with our deeper self that is creative, because we are just creative beings. We need to express and to create something. So if we use colors and we admire beauty and just connect with something that is important for us or has some meaning, as you mentioned, like or flowers or animals or just anything. So it could support us to connect to our deeper self and express better, like, and understand better maybe what it really is. What do I feel when I look at it? Oh, it's such a feeling. And so then you can explore what's that, and why, and where does that lead me in my thoughts, or yeah, just to understand, like, oh, this is what I really want, because as I look at this, it's this
Yeah,
feeling, and
exactly.
I can,
Pulls it out, doesn't it?
yeah,
And I do want to add, this isn't about necessarily making beautiful art, because, that could be a challenge for some people. It's like, oh, I'm not an artist. I don't know how to make something beautiful. And it really isn't about making beautiful art. It's really just about playing. Allow
yeah,
yourself to just play with color, play with some images, and you can move things around. You don't have to draw directly into your journal and then decide, oh my gosh, that looks horrible. You can just draw on a piece of paper, cut it out, and then paste it into your journal if you like it. And it's the same idea with just using stickers, you can use washi tape. I mean, there's a lot of tools out there that is just for you to play with. And I think that if we allow ourselves to just be, not be so concerned about making art, then we can just, let that creative aspect, like you said, we are creative beings and we want to express ourselves. So this is just an easy way to do so.
Yeah, exactly. So, and this way we can just connect with our deep desires and express that, and then it is possible to create some plan or some steps and just move on in your life. Create your life intentionally. And
Yes,
yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, and this is a process, that if you can do it by yourself, wonderful. Like if you can create time in the morning or time at night, time during the day, if you have 10 or 15 minutes to yourself, that's great. If you can do it in community, that is even better. So, that's an aspect that, grab a friend, have a journal date. I'm hoping to open up a journaling community where we can gather and work through some of the prompts together and really tell our stories, in a safe environment where everybody's thinking, okay, I want to work towards this just like you, and I want to be supported, and I want to have a space where I can listen to others' ideas too, which may spark something in me. So I want to add in that community. um, it's like a possibility of just expanding the space even more.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. Like to get support on your journey in creating. Yeah, so I can put into the description where people can find you and how they can contact you if they want to join your community. And is there something we can end this conversation? Something important you want to share with people as like a last piece of message?
Yeah, thank you. I do want to say, I think at this time in our world, we obviously know what's happening in our world. There's a lot of polarity, there's a lot of issues going on, and I won't go into them, but this is a really prime opportunity for us to really think about the future that we want for ourselves and for our world. And so, this visioning process, the idea of creating a vision for your life, I think is really important. But it's not just for you, it's for our neighbors, it is for our country, it is for our planet. If we all collectively create this beautiful vision for our life, can you imagine the impact that that could have in the world, to all have a beautiful vision moving forward where there is more joy, there is more collaboration, there is more support for each other. So I find this visioning process is so important for us at this time. And it allows us to be able to really open up our awareness and our consciousness for something higher. We're striving for something more. We're not limited to what we are currently seeing in our world. We want to strive for something bigger, better, more beautiful, more expanded. And so it does take some time if each of us could individually hold the space for us to create that energetic space and really think about what would a loving world, a joyful world look like. And to be able to express that in our lives first is the most important thing. And if we can each do that, the ripple effect would be amazing.
Thank you so much for sharing that. This is so important. Yes, thank you. And hopefully we all find time for just connect with this vision and co-create, like create this better world for all of us. And in community, it's we are much stronger than individually. So I believe we inspired our audience. please share, join us in this visioning process. Thank you very much, Nicole. Thank you all for watching, and
Thank
see you in
you.
the next episode. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.